Hello, Crusaders. So this is part one of how do we do our CSA. So the question, of course, should we make a home in space or should we use those resources to stay on Earth? Again, don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions on this CSA Prep. So when we're talking about space, we're really talking about these three texts. So Danger, This Mission to Mars Can Bore You to Death, and then the article Space Chronicles by Neil deGrasse Tyson, this space colonization article by Patrick Kiger. So if you're telling us about space, be specific. Are you talking about Mars? Are you talking about the moon? Why is this important? How is it going to be possible? Use as much facts and evidence as you can to support yourself. If we're talking about Earth, these two texts from our literature anthology, The Nobel Speech and Silent Spring by Rachel Carson. There's also these two articles, both about climate change, how they affect land and our oceans. If you're talking about Earth, try to include as much fact as you can. We've talked about climate change. We've talked about CO2 emissions. We've talked about greenhouse gases, fossil fuels, ocean acidification. Again, using all those words really helps me to see that you know what you're talking about. Remember, though, evidence can be skewed. Every single thing that we've read, you can use to support your topic. So, for example, if you're trying to make a case against going to space, using the concern of boredom discussed in Danger, This Mission to Mars really shows me that you get it, you understand. For the same thing, if you're making a case to go to space, using that Nobel data and saying we've already done enough damage to this planet, we have to find somewhere else, I think that's very valid. So what's really important is that you have three strong pieces of evidence that support you. So the best way to rock this assessment, decide your stance, which most of you have already done. Are you for space or for Earth? Second, you're going to come up with three reasons that support your stance. Why are you pro-Earth? Why are you pro-space? Having those three reasons is really important. The other thing that you might choose to do is to have two reasons and support your stance with something called a counter argument. And a counter argument is where you acknowledge the other point of view, but you discredit it with facts or evidence. So, for example, yes, I understand this is important, but here's why my reason is better. So, for example, if I'm writing a paper about a grilled cheese sandwich and how that's the best sandwich, and I know other people are arguing against that with peanut butter and jelly, I want to spend time talking about why a peanut butter and jelly is not the best sandwich, and I'm going to back that with evidence. So let's talk about your evidence. This is the graphic organizer that's going to help you organize your essay. And the first thing that will happen is when I pass this out, everyone groans and says, I'm not doing this. It's too much work. This is too hard. I'm telling you right now, using my professional opinion, as a teacher, as a writer, this is so important. Okay, this is going to help you be successful on this CSA. And once you get this written out, your essay will type itself. So first thing we want an introduction that's going to grab my attention. And remember, that is not a question. Do you want to go to space is not an introduction. Okay, set up a story for me. Think about give me a quote, give me something that's going to grab my attention. And remember, you can use questions, but they need to be thought-provoking questions. Imagine, in 2050, that parts of the United States are underwater. Imagine that we're having natural disasters every single week. Like, that's the kind of thing that's a thought-provoking question. So when you start with the introduction, at the end of the introduction should be this topic sentence. And this is basically like, I believe that we should make a home in space, or I believe we should use our resources here on Earth. And then you're going to list either your three pros or your two pros and a counter argument. And then here is where we're going to start supporting those things with evidence and our thinking. So, for example, here I have this statement: a grilled cheese sandwich is the best kind of sandwich because it's versatile. That's one of my reasons that I think it's the best sandwich. You can keep it simple with bread and cheese, or you can add vegetables, fruit, and meat. You name it. This is, again, more of my opinion. And now I'm going to call in that evidence. So professional chef Jack Huber states, his quote is here: as a grilled cheese is the quintessential menu item. It's comforting and can be elevated to a gourmet meal. Notice that I have this parentheses, his name, comma, and a page number, parentheses, which is super important because it shows me where you got your evidence. This is a very important part that a lot of kids really struggle with. And this is saying a grilled cheese sandwich is, you're synthesizing that evidence. You're telling me, why is this evidence important? How does it relate to what I'm saying? Okay. This is the end of part one of this video. Come back for part two.